Before the writing of this script, my attention was brought to a computer science challenge commonly given towards novice students, that being to perform multiplication with two integers without using the multiplication operator. That is to say that a program which performs multiplication only using division, subtraction, and addition was to be made. This video will be me walking you through the theory behind it, the logic of the program, and then the code of the program. I should first preface this by making it clear this is not for people who haven't done it yet, and are also assigned to do it. Please do it yourself. You should learn, not cheat through it. You likely volunteered to learn how to do this, and then do it yourself, so put the effort in. The only exception is if you cannot figure out what you're supposed to be doing. Then I generally recommend watching only the theory behind it as a way for you to understand what you're supposed to do in the first place. Also, keep in mind I'm not particularly at a high level of competence with C or even computer programming altogether. I'm simply making this video for the fun of it. Something a lot of people don't know is that computer programming is nothing more than applied math. From a simple calculator to an advanced 3D rendering engine, all of it can be boiled down into math. The task I've assigned myself perfectly displays this. The first step to completing this is to ask yourself, what is multiplication? Well, it's quite simple. As division can be seen as repeated subtraction, multiplication is simply repeated addition. If I multiplied 5 by 2, that would be the same as 5 plus 5. Two instances of the first number, which is properly called and is what I shall refer to as from now on, the multiplicand, which is 5. The instances themselves are determined by the multiplier, which is the second number. If we change the multiplier from 2 into 3, then it would be 3 instances of 5. So now the equation is 5 plus 5 plus 5. Now we need to write out the program. The obvious first thing that we would do is take the user's input, so let's call two integers, a and b. A is the multiplicand, and from now on will always be the first number mentioned. B is the multiplier, and will always be mentioned second. Then we can use scanf to take the inputs. Lovely. The next thing we need to do is figure out how we can use these. The objective is to repeatedly add the multiplicand the same number of times the multiplier states. However, if you think ahead a bit, you'd realize that there's two exceptions to the general rules of multiplication. Those two are for 0 and for 1. So the first thing we do is create two branches for the program using if statements. One if one of the numbers is 0, and another one if the multiplier is 1. Then we get into the meat and potatoes of multiplying. If there's no zeros or a multiplier of 1, then we add the multiplicand by itself, and then we take away 1 from the multiplier. We can call this process a round. So if we multiplied 5 by 5, the first round the program would first add 5 and 5 together, which makes 10, and then take away from the multiplier, making it 4. The second round comes along and adds the first number, which is now 15, and takes away 1 from the number. Rinse and repeat 5 times until we get 25. The first piece of code that follows that logic directly goes as follows. In the main function, it calls the two integers, and then does the printf scanf combo of telling the user what it's going to be doing, and then taking the input twice. Now, if either of these numbers are 0, then it just gives 0. If one of the numbers is 1, then it just gives the multiplicand. Good lord. But if neither of those conditions are met, then first it takes the multiplicand, adds it by itself, and then subtracts 1 from the multiplier, and it repeats that while b, the multiplier, is greater than 0. The moment that it hits 0, or goes less than 0, it will stop. And then, finally, after all that calculation is done, it will finally return the multiplicand, which is now multiplied by the multiplier, and finishes the program. Although it works correctly for zeros and if the multiplier is 1, the errors come in when we try to multiply anything else, including when the multiplicand is 1. If I can run this program and multiply 1 by 4, then the program calculates 16. you can quickly realize the cause of the problem, that being it multiplies numbers exponentially. Because instead of adding a number by itself, it adds the product of itself added twice. So instead of the program doing 1 plus 1 plus 1, or 1 plus 1 plus 1 plus 1, my bad, it has done 2 plus 2 plus 4 plus 8. To fix this, we can call a new integer and call it c. C will be first defined before the calculations begin, and it will be defined as the multiplicand A's original value. Now the code looks like this. It's exactly the same until we hit the loop. The multiplicand is now added by c, which is defined as the multiplicand's original value, and b is subtracted by 1, and it does the same thing. But now when you run the program, multiplying by 1 by 4 ends in 5. This is because the program does an extra round. To correct this issue, you can simply subtract b, the multiplier, by 1. And now the code has an extra line where b is equal to b minus 1. Now the code correctly outputs 1 multiplied by 4 as 4, meaning it internally does 1 plus 1 plus 1 plus 1. That's good. But now there's two new issues. The first is that because b is initially subtracted by 1, if we mean the multiplier to be 0, it fouls up the equation. If we mean the multiplier to be 1, it also fouls up the equation. Same for 2. This is where the magic trick comes in. We can not only remove the two if statements, making the program more efficient, but also solve these problems and make negative numbers finally function properly. The simple answer is to just remove the if statements and simply check to make sure that the multiplier isn't 0. Now the code looks like this. Now the program functions without any integer. There's just a rather large caveat. When tasked with the multiplier being 0, 1, or any negative number, the program uses overflows to calculate the answer. This is extremely inefficient, but I need to admit this is where my knowledge falls short. I can't solve it, but at least it's guaranteed to output the correct answer. And that's basically it. Now you have a program that doesn't use multiplication, but still multiplies two integers. Thank you for watching, and I hope you have a good day today.